I remember years ago, I used to crave sweets all the time. It really felt like my sweet tooth was almost insatiable, and I couldn't really figure out what was going on. I also felt really out of control around sweets when I would eventually eat them. If this is you, if you're feeling like there's something wrong with you because you can't have sweets in the house, you can't control yourself around sweets, and you just feel like you can't get enough of them, this is for you, because I'm going to be talking about what your sweet cravings could be telling you and what you can do with that information to feel a greater sense of ease and control around sweets. If you are new here, my name is Catherine Metzler. I'm a registered dietitian, certified intuitive eating counselor, here to help you create peace with food and your body so that all of it takes up less headspace and you can live a life with more freedom, abundance, pleasure, and joy. Be sure to check out all the free resources that I have for you below, including my newsletters. Subscribe to my channel, and let's dive in. You definitely want to take a listen to this. So part of existing in diet culture, which is the culture that you and I exist in, means that sweets are constantly demonized. And I know that you know this because you're probably feeling confused about sweets, about sweet foods. Should you be eating them? Should you not be eating them? How much should you be having of them? And it just gets all kind of messy, right? And then you're left feeling like, well, if you can't limit the amount of sweets that you're having, then it's your fault and you should feel guilty for it. And if you're restricting them, not allowing yourself to have them, and you finally do end up getting exposure to them, what happens? You eat way more than you would have liked, you feel guilty, you start your diet again, or you start restricting again, and people blame the sugar for the experience. But what if it's not your fault? What if it's not the sweet's fault? And what if your sweet cravings could be telling you that something else is going on that's asking for your attention? So let's get into it. The first thing that insatiable sweet cravings can be telling you is that you're not getting enough carbohydrates. Carbohydrates, in particular grain-based carbohydrates, are very demonized in this culture. People are constantly talking about how we should be limiting them. I disagree with that as a dietitian. But if we're not getting enough carbohydrates, it's very common to have sweet cravings. This is because sweets have carbohydrates in them. Sugar is a carbohydrate. And so when we're restricting our carb intake, it is very common to have a higher craving, a more insatiable craving for sweets. And in practice as a dietitian and helping people to heal their relationship with food, I often see that over time when someone's including adequate amounts of carbohydrates, they stop craving sweets as much. Does this mean that they don't still want them? Absolutely not. Sweets are a wonderful, beautiful, pleasurable part of life, but when you start including more carbohydrates, oftentimes the desire to have sweets, or sort of that intense craving, tends to dissipate or even go away in the same kind of intensity. The second thing that your sweet cravings could be telling you is that there's something going on from an endocrine perspective. More specifically, it is very common for those that have blood sugar dysregulation in the context of diabetes, for example, or PCOS, that the body is having a difficult time getting its energy, which is glucose, into the cells, and therefore your cells are just kind of having a hard time getting the fuel that it needs to power up and support your body and all of its systems. And so when you have stuff going on with your blood glucose, if you've got stuff going on with your insulin and how it's functioning, it's not uncommon to crave sweets more, but that's not an indication that there's something wrong with the sweets themselves. This just means that your body might need a little bit more support in the form of medication or other things that can be supportive for blood glucose levels that can help you to feel less of that intense sweet craving that often comes up when we have issues with diabetes or PCOS or both. Now, the third point has a little bit of nuance, which is that if you are saying, as you are right now watching this video, that you are not restricting sweets in any way, you've included them a bunch, but you still have a really intense sweet craving, I want to offer you a thought process or activity, which is, I want you to think about the sweet that you often crave the most. What is it? What does it taste like? Etc. What do you like about it? And write it down. From those characteristics of the things that you do write down, take a look and notice if any of those characteristics, those things that you like about the sweet itself, are things that you're wanting more of in your life. I know it sounds a little bit woo-woo, and of course it doesn't always work out exactly that way, But I have seen that sometimes when we're having sweets, the things that we like about it are things that we're maybe longing for and wanting more of in our life. And the fourth thing that a sweet craving can tell you is that you want more sweets. I know it's not groundbreaking, and this is something that you're probably already aware of, but I can tell you that working towards giving yourself permission to have sweets will, one, dissipate that really intense craving over time. It will also make it not so special. Again, does this mean that you're not going to enjoy the sweets themselves? No. But what it will mean is that you won't feel like when you're having the sweet that you need to eat as much as you can because you're not going to get it again. There's nothing wrong with having sweets. They are a pleasurable, joyful part of life. Not everything that we eat as humans is for nutrients. We eat food for pleasure and for social reasons. And even with that said, let us be mindful of the fact that sweets do have nutrients in them because they have carbohydrates, and carbohydrates are the most important macronutrient of the three. That means they're the big ones, the one that we need the most of. So when people say things like that sweets are devoid of nutrients or that they don't have any nutrients in them, that is not right. More than anything, I want you to know that there is nothing wrong with you if you're craving sweets. If you have an insatiable appetite for them, or if you have a sweet tooth, of course this could be because those are the kinds of foods that you're drawn to and you like the flavor and taste, but it also could be because you're restricting those foods, you're telling yourself that you can't have them, you're only allowing yourself to have a certain amount of them, and it often feels incredibly counterintuitive, which is to allow yourself more permission to have sweets so that you can feel a greater sense of control. We're told in diet culture that it's our responsibility and we lack willpower if we can't control ourselves around sweets, when in reality, the control comes from allowing sweets into our diet, eating them regularly, so that you have a choice. You want to be able to have a choice when you're served pie or cake or candies or whatever to say, I'd like to have one, I'd like to have multiple, I'd like to have a large slice or a small slice or none, and not have it be driven by white knuckling the situation. I'm curious to know from you, are you struggling with your relationship to sweets? Where are you feeling stuck? Comment below, let me know what you thought of this video and where you're feeling challenged. It is so hard to navigate healing our relationship with food in the culture that we exist in because we're going counter to everything that we're told, and it can get really confusing. And I feel pretty passionately about helping you to create peace with sweets and sweet foods and carbohydrates. So let me know the things that are challenging you, that you feel stuck around, so that I can help support you best. And I will see you back here soon.